Anyways, folks, thank you for being here today. We appreciate you folks coming out and spending a little time with us. My name is Tony Espinosa. It's my wife, Roxanne, back there at the computer. Chris. Dave is the gentleman that checked you guys in here today. Okay, so let me give you guys a little bit of information, or a little bit of background on who we are before we get started, because I'm sure you're wondering what this presentation is all about. All right? The company you're seeing here today is U.S. Consumer Attorneys. U.S. Consumer Attorneys is a group of attorneys out of the San Diego, California area. These folks have been around since 2007, and all they do is help families deal with timeshare issues, with contracts and things like that. The three of us have actually been working in this industry now for about 7 or 8 years, and we have several teams like this today, and we travel all over the country. And every year we continue to help thousands and thousands of families out of these maintenance fees. Now, I think it goes without saying for a few of us that there is a little bit of frustration when it comes to timeshares today, yes or no? I think most of us probably agree with that, okay? Now, we also have families that come in here, Rudy and Celia, and they do love their timeshares. You guys have used them for years, you've enjoyed them, and then lifestyles changed. Has anybody here gotten any older since they bought their timeshares? We all have, right? You'd be surprised how many families come into our meetings. They've had these things for 20 years and they've never used them one time. And I run into these families every day. So whatever the reason you're here today, we have a solution. It is legal, it is guaranteed, and up to this date, we have a 100% success rate, okay? Now, I am going to tell you right up front, we're not here to buy your timeshares from you. I'm not going to try to sell your timeshare for you, and I promise you folks, I'm not here to sell you any other timeshares. No more weeks, no more points, no vacation clubs here, okay? The goal here today is very simple. We're going to help you guys understand what it really means to own a timeshare today. I'm going to give you some information the timeshare industry does not want you to know. Then I'm going to show you some alternatives, how anybody can vacation at a resort today without a maintenance fee bill. But the most important reason why you should be here today is to protect your families. Because you need to understand that the wording on each one of your contracts says, "Unto my heirs, successors, and assigns forever, a lifetime, in perpetuity." You folks have about a 20 or 30-year contract. So we're going to help you folks protect your families as well. As soon as we're done here today, I want you to do what's best for you and your families, because there's not going to be any arm twisting. There's not going to be any high-pressure sales tactics. We don't use the sales tactics that they use at the timeshare resorts, because I know you folks came in here a little bit skeptical today, yes or no? A little bit skeptical? Yes? No? Okay, good. Most people raise their hands saying they're very skeptical. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Now, I'm not a listing company. You know those listing companies that call you up and tell you that there's a buyer there and they can have your timeshare sold for $30,000? I'm sure you've spoken with them on the phone. These listing companies are a scam, every one of them. They don't have a buyer. They never had a buyer. And what you folks need to take away here today, if nothing else, you need to understand that the resale value for each one of your timeshares is worth $0. And I don't care if you paid $1 or $100,000 for your timeshares. On the resale market, they're going to sit there forever. Okay, and I'm going to prove that to you here today in this presentation, because I got a bunch of slides I'm going to share with you here today. And these slides come from very credible sources. This is not just my opinion on timeshares. You're going to see slides from USA Today, Newsweek Magazine, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, 2 attorney generals, and you're going to hear the phrase, the trap in timeshares. And I'm not talking about trapped in vacations, because we know that timeshares are great places to vacation, right? There's no doubt about that. The problem with the industry is not your vacations or the resorts. The problem is your contract. And this is the contract that I'll bet you did not read from cover to cover with all the fine print before you signed on the dotted line. True statement? Nobody reads the contracts, do they? Those timeshare sales reps, they're pretty slick. Because you remember when you were sitting in a 90-minute, 6-hour presentation that day, how much time did they focus on your contracts? They don't focus on the contracts, do they? What do they focus on? The beauty, the paradise, the wonderful opportunities to vacation for the rest of your life, right? So we're going to help you understand that contract, what it really means. Then you'll understand our services and why more and more people today are trying to eliminate their maintenance fees. Now, we're going to start off talking about the different types of timeshare owners. These families here at the top, we don't see them very often. They love their timeshares, they use them, they enjoy them, and they're looking to buy some more timeshares. Do either one of you folks here want to buy any more timeshares? I think the answer is no. Now, we do see a lot of families that are somewhat happy, but they feel that the situation could be improved and the money you're spending on maintenance fees could be put to better use, yes or no? I think we can all find something better to do with that money today. Now, we are seeing more of this today, disgruntled timeshare owners. People's maintenance fees are going up, right? Why are they telling us not available? What's this point system thing all about that they're trying to sell us? And if you're not disgruntled, we're simply dealing with lifestyle changes. As we get older, we see a lot of people now that come in here who have health issues. We see a lot of widows now coming into our meetings. And when that happens and these lifestyles change, people just don't use timeshares like they used to. And most of the people that own timeshares today are now looking for a way out. All right, so our solution is to legally eliminate your timeshare fees forever. Now, without a maintenance fee bill, if you did not have a timeshare contract, do you realize that over 6,000 resorts are available to rent today at wholesale prices? So by renting a timeshare and not owning one, there is no obligations to use it, which means if you don't travel, what do you pay? Nothing. If you don't use your timeshares, what are you going to pay for the rest of your lives or for the next 10 to 15 years? You're going to pay maintenance fees whether you use them or not, right? So there's no obligations, no restrictions, and most importantly, nobody needs a contract to vacation at any one of your timeshare resorts. And we're going to show you how that's done. But first of all, let me show you what's happened in the last couple of years. You folks have had your timeshares for quite a while, right? Nobody comes into our meetings who just bought a timeshare last year. What has happened now is disclosures are now mandated by the federal government. By law, the resorts have to disclose to you what you're actually buying today. It's a 14-point disclosure list. The most important are these 5 right here. Number 1, do not buy a timeshare for investment or resale. And yet, when you bought it and plunked down all that money, what did they tell you that day? What a great investment you just made for your families. Didn't they tell you that this money today is going to be worth more down the road? And didn't they also tell you that if you didn't use it, they would help you rent them out for more than your maintenance fees? That's not true, is it? So when you buy that timeshare today, you're going to sign off understanding every dollar you spent that day, gone from day one. That money was not an investment and there is no resale. All you're doing is paying thousands of dollars to be able to vacation 1 or 2 weeks a year at the resorts, whether you use them or not. That's it. The second disclosure says we're going to raise your maintenance fees. And how many of you have seen your maintenance fees go up a little bit higher in the last couple of years? They're going up faster, aren't they? The industry average 8 years ago, 4%. We are now looking at 12 to 15%. And there are no caps on your maintenance fees. In the past, these maintenance fees used to double every 10 years. They will probably double again in the next 5 to 7 years. And the reason they can do that is right here. Governing documents are subject to change. The resorts can change the rules of the game whenever they choose. Now, if you were to go back to that timeshare today and try to cancel that contract, guess what they're going to tell you? They don't take them back. And here's why. There are 8 million timeshare owners in the U.S. right now. 4 million are on the resale market. Half the people that own timeshares right now are trying to get out of these things. And if the timeshare industry took back 4 million timeshares, what would happen to the industry? It would collapse, folks. They can't afford to take them back. And the number one reason, bar none, why more and more families today are trying to get out of these maintenance fees is to protect their families. Because you need to realize, Ludi, that your contract, your heirs will be responsible for your maintenance fees probably for the rest of their lives. You folks have to be around for about another 12 to 15 years, right? Otherwise, it will be your kids' responsibility. Now, a lot of people ask me, how can they force this onto my families if they didn't sign the contracts, correct? It's in your contract. And this is what the contract talks about. And this is what the timeshare industry does not want you to know. This is their dirty little secret. Now, for you, Ludi, you have a deed on your timeshare, correct? It's deeded like property. Now, with that deed, when you bought it, did you feel like you actually bought and owned some of the property there with that deed? Yeah. You don't own any property there. You don't own one brick. You have a deed of time, not property, okay? But with your deed, Ludi, comes property taxes. And property taxes are linked to inheritance laws, which is why your families are forced to take them over. You folks have to just 20 or 30 years, you got to live out the contract and then it ends, it expires, correct? But now the federal government says this is what you have to explain. To having to hold the said premises above bargained and described unto the grantee, its heirs, successors, and assigns, and the last word is, or in perpetuity, or 20 or 30 years, right? Now, the second one talks about collections. After judgment, purchaser may be subject to garnishments of salaries, liens and levies on personal properties, to foreclosures, and a deficiency judgment. If you have a house today and you don't pay your property taxes, can they put a lien on it? Can they garnish your wages? It's another reason why they have a deed and property taxes, because if they can't get the money today, they'll get it down the road. And now the industry is getting very aggressive in going after collections because they've lost over $3 billion in the last 8 years. From 2008, sales are down over 50%. And estimates are about 30% of the owners right now are walking away from their contracts. They're broke. They have no money. And if they're going after families who have no money, what are they going to get from them? Nothing. So guess who's paying higher fees now to cover their losses? The ones who have money and have good credit. You're going to pay the difference. Now, changes in the contract. The developer has reserved the right to add, to modify, and delete incidental benefits throughout the program. They can change the rules of the game whenever they choose. Now, the biggest concern for timeshare owners today, or it should be, right here. The developer may take action or perform work in a timeshare unit without the consent of owners, and owners may have to pay the cost of action so taken or work so performed. Special assessments for renovations, repairs, remodels, hurricanes, tornadoes, fire damage. We're seeing a lot more of these special assessments coming out right now. And now that the industry is over 40 years old, guess what they're doing to a lot of the buildings now? They're rebuilding them, they're renovating, they're upgrading them. And when that happens today, here's what you're going to be looking more at. These are a few of my clients just in the last year to year and a half. Mackay Club in Hawaii, $2,088 assessment. Cape Cod on the East Coast from hurricane damage, $2,100 assessment. Ocean Club, Smugglers Beach, $2,200 and $2,800 assessment. Now, look what they said on the letter when they sent out the bill. What could not be planned for was a 42% increase in expenses based on issues completely outside of our control. So now the renovations and remodels, those are a given, but now they're assessing people simply for financial help. If they're losing money and can't stop the bleeding, guess who gets the bill for it? The owners do. This one happened about a year and a half ago. The Point at Poipu in Hawaii. This is owned by Diamond Resorts. You may have heard of the name Diamond. The CEO of that company has been on that show, Undercover Boss, a couple of times. Well, every owner got a $6,000 assessment for a $68 million renovation project from previous hurricane damage. And the maintenance fees basically doubled from one year to the next. Okay? You may have seen this one on the news. Sorry about that. Oh, I took the other one away. Sorry. Okay, so here's the question for you and your family today. If you knew today, you and your family, you can go to any timeshare resort in the world anytime you want to show up, and you only have to pay if you use it. You can vacation at your resorts right now for about half of what you're paying in maintenance fees. You would never get a special assessment, and your kids will never be responsible for this contract. Would that be a better way to vacation, yes or no? Of course it would be. So here's what's happening more and more. More people are now vacationing at your timeshare resorts using private vacation clubs and website rentals. And the reason they're going on vacation more using this, because there are millions of unused timeshare units annually that have created rental opportunities for non-timeshare owners. Your resorts right now can be found and rented on Hotels.com, Expedia, Orbitz, eBay, Travelocity, Priceline. But more importantly, over 4 million of these units are now rented to members of private vacation clubs at wholesale prices. Your resorts are taking a big chunk of rooms. They're not letting you use it. They're moving it to fulfillment companies and website companies so that people like me who don't own can vacation anytime I want for just a few $100. Now, do either one of you in here know about timeshare rentals today? That's the problem. I've been asking that question for 8 years. Nobody raises their hands. And that's why they're still selling them. Today, every 80 seconds, somebody's going to plunk down 20 grand on a worthless contract, not knowing that the same place can be rented anytime you want for just a few $100, a fraction of your maintenance fees. And the reason we can do that today is because there are millions of unused timeshare units. And guess where that unused inventory is coming from? Right here. Have you folks had at least 1 year you didn't use your timeshare contracts? Last 2 years you folks have missed, right? They're in the bank,
Yeah,
right?
I guess.
Yeah, but you haven't used them, so you banked them, right? Have you ever missed a year?
Sometimes,
Yeah, of course you do. Everybody misses a year, right? So that's unused inventory. And here's another way we can use it. Have you ever done an exchange with Interval and RCI, right? You bank, you exchange. Well, when you bank here and exchange, this room is left empty, and you had to go find an exchange to an empty room. And today, the no-show rate for timeshare owners is between 50 and 60%. Over half of the people that own them are not using them every year. So guess what the resorts are doing with all this inventory? They're renting them out. But more importantly, what your resorts are doing is negotiating wholesale rental prices so people like me who don't own can go on vacation anytime I want for just a few $100 anywhere in the world. Now, here's a Wyndham. You folks have a Wyndham in Mexico, right? The largest timeshare company in the world is Wyndham. Now, Wyndham has a website, and that website is called Endless Vacation Rentals, but it's Wyndham's website. Let me pull it up here real quick. Take a look at this right here. Endless Vacation Rentals. Do you see Wyndham's name anywhere here? No, because Wyndham doesn't want timeshare owners to know this is their website that the general public can use anytime they want. Okay? So today on Endless Vacations, I went to the U.S., typed in Las Vegas because it's a very popular destination for us folks, and take a look at what you can find in Vegas right now. Now let's go to Tahiti Village. $318 for the entire week. Now, Ludi, you have a Club du Soleil, $360 for the entire week, without $1 purchase price. All I have to do is rent for the entire week. And guys, these are like $60 a night. $50, $60, $70, $80 a night gets you a week's vacation just about anywhere you want to go. Here's a Wyndham, which is a world mark, as you folks know. Here's a Wyndham Grand Desert, which is the most expensive one on the list here for the entire week. You're $80 to $90 a night, and that's all you have to pay, right? One of the other largest websites available to rent timeshares is through RCI. Do you guys know who owns RCI? Wyndham owns RCI. So every time you bank your weeks, right? You folks have a couple of weeks in the bank right now. Have you ever banked your weeks? Well, do you know that Interval and RCI, they have websites that rent your banked weeks to the general public? Because they know once you bank them, most of the people won't use them, so they have a ton of inventory in RCI banks. They rent them to the general public, right? So if you bank your weeks, I go rent them from the website. Do you think you would ever get a check in the mail? You would never know they're doing it, folks, and this is how easy it is today for people to go on vacation to your resorts. Now, if there's so much inventory out there available to rent, why are they telling you folks not available when you try to book an exchange? You ever been told not available, Ludi? Yeah. Always. Now, if they're telling you not available, right, and 50% of the owners don't use them, and 30% of the people who are delinquent on their maintenance payments can't use them unless you're caught up, correct? That's 50 to 80% of the inventory, and they're telling you not available. Makes no sense. So this has happened, Timesharing Today magazine, 2006. RCI was hit with 2 separate class action lawsuits, and they got charged with fraud because they have been taking your banked weeks, renting them to the general public instead of remaining available for exchange by the Weeks and Points members. The suits allege RCI makes more money from renting the weeks than it makes from your exchange fees, and rentals of prime weeks are made to non-members through all these websites that have secret agreements with RCI. That's why you're told not available. They have weeks available to rent at your resorts every week of the year. But they're telling you not available, they want more money. When you do an exchange with RCI or Interval right now, do you know how much that exchange fee is? RCI is $240 now, okay? Big deal. If they can get a renter there for $300 or $500 or $600 for the entire week, is that more than your exchange fee? And if I'm the renter, guess where they're going to try to get me to show up the next morning? For that free breakfast buffet. 90-minute presentations, right? They've been doing this for years. They got sued, they lost, and they're still getting away with it. And do you know how they're getting away with it? The point system, the floating week system. You see, you folks are on points and floating time, right? Your Club du Soleil is a floating contract, right? Now, think about what happened 40 years ago when they started selling timeshares. The only thing you could buy back then was one fixed week and one fixed unit. You remember those days? You bought a fixed week unit. Well, they don't sell those anymore because you can only sell or you can only buy a fixed week unit how many times? You get one sale for that unit. That's all you get, correct? But how many times can they sell points? Forever. How many times can they sell floating week contracts? Forever. You never run out of sales now. So instead of just getting 50 sales per unit, they can sell them forever. Overbook the rooms, keep telling the owner's not available, and now that everybody's on this point system or floating system, and now they're renting to the general public, could you prove they're doing it? You would never know they're getting away with it, guys, and that's how they're doing it, and the only reason is for their financial benefit, okay? Now, this article here goes back 21 years, Newsweek magazine. Back then it was called The Trap in Timeshares. This vacation plan has hundreds of entrances, few exits if you want to sell. So what's not to like about this deal? There's the biggest problem with your contract right there, perpetuity, which means forever. The generational liability, dying doesn't help. Your heirs, they will inherit these timeshares, and what's going to come with it? Your maintenance fees. And what do you think your maintenance fees are going to be when you folks pass away compared to when you first bought them? Well, they used to double in 10 years. It'll probably double in 5 to 7. So do the math in your lifetime. And here's the relevancy going back 20 years. This guy here, Bert Blitzer, he was the former chairman back then. Look what he said. Resales are the industry's missing link. And unless they solve the problem, he would rather rent one than own one. This is the chairman of the board. And the chairman of the board 20 years ago said, don't go buy a timeshare, go rent one. And he said go rent when the World Wide Web was only 5 years old. There was no Expedia back then. There was no Travelocity, no Priceline. And today, if you Google timeshare rentals, you're going to find over 2 million websites to rent timeshares. And now 4 million are on the resale market. So if I wanted to go and rent your timeshares today, how cheap could I do it? They're a dime a dozen. But what has it done to the value of your timeshares? It's made them worthless. And this is why CNN Money refers to your timeshare as the timeshare trap. Now, let me show you something real quick. Remember, there's over 2 million websites to rent timeshares, okay? Let me show you one, and this is actually my favorite website to rent timeshares. This website is called Timeshares Only. You folks see that right there? Timeshares Only is the largest listing company on the internet. Thousands of families have paid listing fees of $500 to $1,000 to try to sell their timeshares here. They never sell them. They rent them to the general public. So when I go to this website, I can put in any timeshare in the world that I want to go to. So I just happen to pull your folks' timeshare up here, Rudy and Celia, and I've got the Pueblo Bonito Resort at Emerald Bay. That's one of your timeshares, correct? And you're paying about $700 on this one, correct? Or is that the $600 one? $500?
No, that's a window.
Okay. That's okay. Right now,
It's actually 480.
480, almost 500. Is that a studio or a one bedroom? Studio?
Studio.
Okay, take a look at this, guys.
It's a one, I'm sorry, it's a one bedroom.
That's a one bedroom. Okay, let me show you what I found here on this website today. This is just one page, okay? Here's a one bedroom unit. Here's a one bedroom floating week, $750 or best offer. Okay, so Rudy, if I wanted to go on vacation to this resort and this was your listing and I offered you $300 or $400 and you were not using it, would you take it? No. Of course you would, right? And down here even further, I've got a 3-bedroom for $1,400 negotiable, which means my negotiated price to you on a 3-bedroom unit would be about $700. Would you take it for a 3-bedroom, right? But it's that simple to do it. Now let me pull up another one here. I've got Marina El Cid Hotel and Yacht Club. This is your Wyndham one, correct? And this is the one that's a little bit higher maintenance fee bill. But take a look at this. Studio. If I just wanted to go with my wife and I, no kids, no other family members, that studio for a floating week is $300 for the whole week. But I can still put my offer in down here. I just click on the ad, put in my personal information, make the offer down here of $100 or $200, and guess what the owner's going to say? Something's better than nothing, right? But it is that easy, and I can do this anywhere in the world. Ludi, take a look at this one right here. Here's your Club du Soleil, and you're paying about $600 and something in maintenance fees, right? Okay, so here's what I found on yours. Here's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath floating week, $500 negotiable. Negotiable. So I'm going to offer you $250 to $300. And if you were not using it, would you take it? You're going to say something's better than nothing, right? Because even if you told me not available, I have access to all these other listings. That says page 1. There's page 2. There's a $500 negotiable for a 1-bedroom. There's page 3. There's page 4. Do you think somebody's going to let me offer and rent it for whatever I feel like paying? That's 4 pages. Every one of your timeshares here has page after page after page to go rent these things, right? So when I rent that timeshare and I go on vacation, at the end of the week, I pack my bags and I'm done. I didn't have to pay $1 in purchase price. I have no interval or RCI membership fees. I have no exchange fees. I'll never see a special assessment. But more importantly, my family will never be responsible for that contract that your families will be. Okay? And that's the biggest difference. This is why they call it the timeshare trap. Frustrated with fees, timeshare owners struggle to donate, sell, or even give away their vacation properties. The supply of resale timeshares so outweighs the demands for the new ones that owners find it nearly impossible to unload their shares. 8 million owners, 4 million on the resale market. If you had to sell your timeshare today for $1, guess what your chances are? They're pretty slim. And this is why they call your timeshare a worthless piece of heaven. Now, let me show you something and prove that statement to you. If you had a buyer today, that buyer has to be willing to take over what? Maintenance fees. So what did I just sell you, property or a bill? A bill. How many of you want to go buy a bill? We got enough sitting at home, don't we? So here's what happens. Here's eBay today, right? Everybody knows eBay. Every day, every morning I do this. I go to eBay, I go to timeshares for sale, I put in the asking price, $0 to $1, okay? That's all I want is $1 or less. And today, there are 570 timeshares available for $1 or less. And there are no bids. Take a look at these. Monarch Grand Vacations, this is owned by Diamond Resorts. Cabo Azul, Palm Springs, 99 cents is the asking price. There are no bids, and that auction ended this morning at 9:52. Here's the Cliffs at Peace Canyon, Las Vegas. Ludi, this is a Gold Crown resort. This is your higher end resort out there. They're only asking $1, and there are no bids. Ended at 10 o'clock this morning. Shell Points, Shell Vacation. Did you guys know that Wyndham just bought out Shell Vacation? This is about a year ago. They own Shell Vacation now. This particular timeshare is asking $1. There are no bids. 10 o'clock it ended. Here's a Hyatt Points, Sedona, Arizona for $1. No bids. Wyndham, $64,000 in Branson. Kahana Beach, no bids for $1. Look at this. They're offering you a $200 Visa card if you buy the timeshare. So in other words, I'll pay you to buy my timeshare, and there are no bids. You can't pay people to buy these things today, right? 36,000 Blue Green Points, Diamond Resorts, Vegas Timeshare Club du Soleil. There it is, Ludi. That is your timeshare. $1, no bids. Ended at 12 o'clock. Diamond Resorts, deeded week. Vacation Village at Weston, 2 bedrooms, 2 bath. 1 penny. No bids. Right? On and on. Look at that. 1 penny, 1 penny, 1 penny. I just showed you page 1. Now, there's 578 listings. That means there's about 25 and 26 pages just like this. And after 25 pages for $1, guess where we go next? $2. And then we go to our $3 listings, then $5. How many pages before I'm at $1,000 asking price? Doesn't matter. You could buy whatever you want on page 1 for $1 or a penny, and there's no bids. Why? What did I just buy for a penny? A bill for the rest of my life. Why buy that bill when I could rent it and be there next week for less than a Motel 6? It just makes no sense today. And the biggest reason why timeshares will sit here for another 90 days, because nobody buys them here. Where did you folks buy your timeshares? At the resort? At the resort. And do you know why you bought it at the resort? You drank the Kool-Aid, right? You had the free gift, you had the high-pressure salesman, the bells, the whistles, the balloons, the champagne, the ocean air, the mountain breeze, relaxation, paradise forever, right? What's that? Free rooms, right? You guys, it's the free gift. It's the hype. It's the emotion that sells a timeshare. And you see on the internet here, there's no emotion, right? There's no high pressure. There's no Kool-Aid. And that's why they'll sit there, because without the emotion, there's no sale to that timeshare resort, okay? This is the Attorney General from Florida, Pam Bondi. And there are thousands of families every day who get ripped off by these listing companies. You know, the ones that want $500 to try to sell your timeshare? Well, here's what she says. Be wary of too good to be true claims when it comes to resales. Remember, the timeshare market is not hot, and it's unlikely that there's a buyer ready and willing to buy your timeshare. Okay, guys? So if you get nothing out of this today other than this, do not pay one dime trying to sell your timeshare, because that's just more money you're going to keep throwing away. All right? Dave Ramsey. Have you heard of this gentleman right here? You've heard him on radio, seen him on TV in the past. Good guy, right? Have you ever heard of him, Ludi? Dave Ramsey? If not, you know Susie Orman, Clark Howard, you've heard the names. Well, here's what he has to say about timeshares with ABC News. Take a listen.
Our next guest says that timeshares may not be all they're cracked up to be. We're happy to be joined by one of our favorite Money Matters guests, Dave Ramsey, radio host of the Dave Ramsey Show. Do you think that timeshares are a good investment or bad investment?
I could get our tickets from here to Maui to Honolulu, Honolulu to LAX for about $1,000.
Total?
It's not an investment. An investment is the idea that you could actually
Total?
sell it. And you can't, here's the stupid
We'll have to
thing.
confirm it. We get it, so we don't have to pay them out of our pocket.
Absolutely horrible. And you are just stuck in these things. You cannot get rid of them. Of the people that call the Dave Ramsey Show, I would say we have a 98% dissatisfaction with them. And they can't get rid of them. They're paying $14,000, $15,000, $20,000. They're paying payments on them, and it's a mess in there.
Why do you think it's so difficult to get rid of these things? And how do you go about it? I mean, is there any way to sell them?
Well, there's no market for them. Nobody wants them. Do not go to one of the list services where you pay $200 or $300 or $500 up front to just get your name on a list, because that's all that happens. They slap your offering on a list and you never hear from anybody.
Sounds like no matter what you do, you kind of are losing money here.
It is a total consumption. When you write the check for a timeshare, if you write a check up front or if you borrow the money up front, you have spent that money and that money's gone.
All right, so very important. What's the last comment he just said there? Money's gone from day one. I don't care if it was $1 on eBay or 20 grand at the resort. Your timeshares today, when you sign that contract, have this much value. And as soon as you can accept the fact that that's reality today, because it wasn't always like this, folks, the better off you're going to be moving forward, especially because of that generational liability tied to these contracts, okay? Now look at the current economic impact. 2008, 6 years now, Orlando Business Journal. The president, Ed Hastry, estimated 3 million timeshares on the resale market. We are now looking at 4 million approximately, and that's about half the people that own them right here in the U.S. This is from the Cape Cod Times. This gentleman right here, Arthur Frommer, you may have heard the name Frommer Travel Guides. He's pretty well known in the travel industry. Well, he wrote this: the current economic slowdown has caused so many owners to default on their maintenance payments that obligations for the remaining owners are skyrocketing in cost. Did you guys know that right now approximately 30% of your maintenance fees are paying for those families who can't afford to pay theirs? If they would have told you when you bought the timeshare that you're going to have to pay for somebody else's maintenance fees, would you have signed the contract? But you did, and those are your fees right now. And how do we know that? Well, the resorts tell you every year where the money's going. Have you folks received your budget statement for the year yet? It just came out, December, January. These are required by law to send you every year. And these budget statements itemize where they're spending the tens of millions of dollars in maintenance fees. If you look very closely, I collected both of these this weekend. Are you familiar with the Welk Resort down in Escondido? It's over off the 15 freeway near San Diego, right? We see a lot of these timeshare owners come in here. Last year, their bad debt was $971,000. That's almost $1 million people not paying. This is part of Palm Canyon Resort and Spa. This is in Palm Springs. This is part of Diamond Resorts, Monarch Grand Vacations. Well, Monarch Grand Vacations last year had $9 million in bad debt. This is just one of their resorts, and it was $800,000 last year, bad debt. And you take all these millions of dollars that people are not paying, and you divide it amongst all the owners, and that's your little slice of the pie every year for the rest of your lives, okay? And they are going up at a much faster rate today, okay? Make no mistake about it, even if your timeshare is in another country, collection efforts are all the same. You simply cannot abandon them without being sued in court. Now, you folks have 2 Mexico timeshares, correct? But where do you pay your maintenance fees to?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. And do you know why you pay to the U.S. and not Mexico? So in case you decide not to pay, now they can come after you because they have a company set up here in the U.S. It was all done for collection purposes. USA Today, front page of the money section. According to ARDA, maintenance fees have grown an average of 12% a year since 2005. We are actually now looking at closer to 15% right now. Okay, guys, so they are going up at a much higher rate. Okay? One more slide, and we're going to get into some better news for you. Okay, this is from the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture. Resorts refuse to take back unwanted memberships because the income generated by your maintenance fees is more valuable than the title to real estate, correct? You guys know now your timeshares are worth how much money? Zero. But what's the value of your maintenance fees to your resort? It's everything they've got and whatever they want it to be. From day one, you signed a contract that said, unto my heirs, successors, and assigns forever or 30 years. They had you guys locked in for life from day one. Why would they take them back? Makes no sense, does it? You see, if they took back 4 million timeshares today, they're not going to bury them. What are they going to do with them? They're going to resell them, right? So if they just took back 4 million timeshares, they already had you locked in for life for 30 years. Why would they take them back and resell them? That defeats the whole purpose, right? Even if they resold that timeshare, that is a sale, but unfortunately, most of your purchase price money does not go to the developer. Do you guys know where most of that purchase price money ends up? Salespeople, commission to the sales team. You see, your purchase price when you were negotiating that day, it wasn't for property because you don't own one brick at that resort. You were negotiating the commission check to the sales team. But that commission check, compared to the maintenance fees, what the developer wants, that's going to cost your families at least $100,000 in their lifetime. Okay? If the member refuses to pay, the condo association, again, they will sue you. Recover back dues, interest, and attorney fees. Some members say they feel trapped for life. And what they'll do on collections, guys, is they'll call and collect money for about a year to 2 years. Then they're going to give up, and then they get a judgment, and all they have to do is go put a lien on your property, right? They're not going to keep bothering you for the money. And we're seeing more and more collection problems today. There's a lot of broke people out there. But the biggest problem with collections today is not so much from the original buyers anymore. Guess where we're starting to see more collection problems occur? Heirs, next generation, the kids. You see, timeshares have been around for over 40 years here. And people that were buying timeshares 40 years ago in their 20s and 30s and 40s, how old are they today? 60s, 70s, 80s, passing on. You'd be surprised how many widows are now coming into our meetings, more and more. But unfortunately now, more kids are coming in here with these contracts. Mom and dad are gone. And they walk in here saying, Tony, I didn't want it when they were alive. Why would I want it today? Mom and dad bought it when the maintenance fees were only a couple of $100 a year. Now they're $1,000, $2,000 a year. I don't want it. I don't need it. I can't afford it. I don't use it. And Tony, I've been using the internet for 20 years. You don't think I already know that if I want a vacation, I can go to a website, I can go to any one of these thousands of websites, book a trip, and be on vacation for a couple $100 anytime I want, right? But they're in collections for the same reason. They don't feel obligated to have to write the checks, okay? All right, let me get through this. So ask yourself this: what is the cost of keeping that timeshare today if you choose to? And then we're going to get into our services. All right, look at the numbers. The average maintenance fee bill for one timeshare right now worldwide is $786. You folks are actually a little bit less than the industry average right now, right? That's one timeshare. Now, if you take a look at this example right here, we didn't add on any taxes, no RCI, no interval, no exchange fees, no special assessments. We're being very conservative on these numbers. And we're only going to put a 10% increase on these numbers. The industry average is over 12% right now. Did either one of you in here pick up a calculator on day one and total up what 30 years of maintenance fees were going to cost your family? We didn't do that, did we? So let me give you a statistic. Would you agree with me when I say that mostly married people buy timeshares, yes or no? We agree with that, right? Okay, statistically in 30 years, guess what's going to happen to one of you? Kick the bucket. One of you is going to pass away, right? Also, in 30 years, most people buy timeshares for their families, right? We buy them for our families, our kids, our grandkids. We can all vacation together, correct? And back then, how old were our kids? Younger, right? And today, how old are the kids? They're all grown up, aren't they? And they're doing their own thing. And how many of your kids and grandkids are using your timeshares every year when you don't use them? They don't use them either, do they? But we agreed to write the check that day for the rest of their lives. So let's move forward 5 years from today. Let's put another $5,000 into this contract that's worth how much money? Zero. 10 years, 12 grand. Now you guys are going to be done in about 10 to 15 years on your timeshares, correct? So you're looking at about another 12 grand or so on each one of them, all right? In 20 years, 45,000, Ludi. Look at 30 years of maintenance fees, over 129 grand. Now, who's going to be responsible for most of this money? Kids and grandkids, right? You guys will probably live the next 12 to 15 years, more than likely, right? So hopefully you'll live it out. But take a look at what those numbers are going to look like for you and your family, okay? What we did in front of you here today, guys, is we put that worksheet that you filled out, we put your maintenance fees today based on a 12% increase. Now, the industry average right now, what it says today, what we've been told is that your maintenance fees today will double in the next 5 to 7 years, okay? Based on fees, based on cost of doing business, based on bad debt. If you take a look at the maintenance fee bill today, in the middle number, and you look down 5, 6, and 7 years, that maintenance fee bill today will have doubled by then. And that is the average right now. But at the very bottom on the right, Ludi, for you, because you're in perpetuity, what's that number circled on the bottom? $163,000, okay, in the next 30 years. Now, who's going to be responsible for most of that money? Kids and grandkids or somebody in your family, right? Now, you folks, let's just look at 10 years. If you just go down 10 years, because you have over 10 years left on both timeshares. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at about another, go down 10 years, and just go 9 years right here. You're going to be about $12,000 to $15,000. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what you're going to end up paying probably in the next 10 or 15 years. Okay, for something that has absolutely no value. Okay? So, the question is this. Asset or liability, what do we own? Liability, right? So here's our solution. By the way, a little bit of background on the timeshare industry. There's been a lot of companies out there in the past, in the last 10 or 15 years, who have been out there helping people get out of their timeshare contracts. These companies that used to be out there were transfer companies, are transfer companies. I don't know if have any one of you here been to a presentation like this before? No. Never been to a presentation? Okay. There used to be a lot of transfer companies out there. And these transfer companies would be able to take your title, and through their marketing efforts and their title company, they would be able to move that title to somebody else. They were able to find buyers to take it over. Now, these transfer companies that were out there used to have these things done in about 3 to 6 months on average, okay? Now, they used to charge a fee. That fee that they used to charge was about $3,000 to $4,000 to be able to transfer title. So it was pretty affordable, and they were done pretty quick, all right? But here's what's happened over the last year to year and a half. Most of these transfers now that used to be done in 3 to 6 months, many are now taking a year to 3 years. There's a lot of them that are not getting done. Also, that 3 to 6 months is now taking 1 to 2 years, and the fee is now $2,000 to $4,000. They've gone up quite a bit. They've doubled, even tripled for many people to try to transfer title. Okay? It's now very difficult to get out of these things. The reason that has happened is right here. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Back in May 2013, there was legislation passed in Florida that has made it more difficult for timeshare owners to legally exit their timeshare resort contracts. This bill, the Florida Vacation Plan Timesharing Act, House Bill 7025, has made numerous industry-backed changes to Florida's timeshare laws. It has already spread to several other states, including Canada, which used to be one of the biggest markets for these transfer companies. Nobody can even go up there to help these families out. Okay? Here's what happened. The resorts went crying to the politicians. The developer-friendly legislation, so guess whose side they're on? Follow the money side, right? And that legislation targets timeshare owners hoping to exit their unwanted timeshare contracts, and unfortunately companies who assist in ending their ownership. So the resorts have now found a way. They had to find a way because they cannot afford to let 4 million people just walk away from these contracts. And the reason this is now happening more and more, and it's getting tougher and tougher, is because guess what's happening to a lot of those original owners of timeshares from 40 years ago? They're passing on. And guess who's taking these things over in bigger numbers now? Kids and grandkids. And they don't want these things. These are obsolete contracts for us as timeshare owners. Okay? But now you have 4 million other people who are simply saying, I want out. Well, guess what the resorts were forced to do? They were forced to pass legislation, because if they just let every kid walk away who inherited them and say you don't have to pay it, and if they just let 4 million people walk away, how long do you think the industry would last? It would be done in a couple of years, and this is why it's happening, okay? So now the question people have is, so what is our way out? How do we get out of a timeshare contract today? Well, this is why we're here, folks. We are U.S. consumer attorneys, and U.S. consumer attorneys has been helping consumers cancel unwanted timeshare contracts since 2007. They're a law firm based out of San Diego, California. We're not too far from here. Okay? And it's a big group of attorneys that specialize in resort contract cancellations in all 50 states throughout Mexico and the Caribbean. They are experienced, knowledgeable attorneys and timeshare industry professionals that will end your timeshare contracts forever. Now, what's important is this statement right here. Industry professionals. The guy who runs U.S. Consumer Attorneys used to be one of the top sales reps at these resorts here locally for many, many years. So he already knew what it took to get people into these contracts. Okay? When we first started out, one of our attorneys used to write contracts for the timeshare industry. They are now on the other side, and they have made it their mission to go after the resorts for what they're doing to their clients today. All right? Now, what's important is this. You will not pay any more fees to your resort. Now, have either one of you paid your maintenance fees for 2015 yet? On one, the one you have not. Have you paid your fees yet for 2015?
Oh, yeah.
You already wrote the, you have not paid it yet. Okay. Do not pay those fees. If you have not paid it, do not write the check, because you are going to get a head start here. You are not required to write that check for 2015. Okay? And we have thousands of timeshare contracts have already been terminated through our process. Okay? And the reason you folks have been invited here today is because up to this date, the timeshares you told us about, we have a 100% success rate. We have never lost a case, and up to this date, we have never gone to trial. And do you know why we've never gone to trial? the resorts will lose. How many people on a jury might own a timeshare? How many people on a jury might know somebody who owns a timeshare? So you see, folks, your resorts will never put a high-priced attorney in front of a judge and a jury knowing they will lose every single time. That with one by one, with less exposure, these resorts can just terminate these contracts. Because our attorneys are going to go back to that resort with your contract, and they're simply going to say this: you guys have two options. We can terminate this thing right here because I can prove what you're selling is not real estate. I can prove this is a bad contract. So we either terminate the contract or we go do this in front of a judge and a jury. And that's why we have so much success, okay? Now, one of the problems people have out there, or one of the problems people do, is they say, well, I'm going to go hire my own attorney. I've got a friend who's a real estate attorney. My brother's an attorney. The problem is most of these attorneys do not know anything about the timeshare industry. And the first thing that attorney is going to do is say, well, okay, I'll help you, but I charge $250 an hour, so I'll read your contract. So right off the bat, you're out thousands of dollars. And then you have an attorney who's going to go try to fight an industry they know nothing about. They will get eaten for lunch by that timeshare attorney, okay? You are dealing with people who are experienced in the timeshare industry, okay? And that's the difference. One of the other questions people ask me is, what is my guarantee? Well, I'll tell you right now, I do not have a money-back guarantee. I don't need a money-back guarantee, okay? Because the only way I could not get you out of your timeshare contract today is if you were on my do not take list. And this do not take list consists of timeshares in Canada, Spain, Ireland, or Africa. If you guys had a Mexico timeshare that you paid your maintenance fees to Mexico and not the United States, we would not be helping you out here. So thankfully you do write the checks here to the U.S. Otherwise, we're not going to go try to fight and sue Mexico. We'll never get it done, okay? But that's good why they have the offices here. If you had any one of these U.S. timeshares right here, or if you had this Caribbean timeshare right here, we wouldn't help you. Last weekend, I was in New Jersey, and I had a gentleman come into my meeting who had this timeshare contract right there. He's had it for 20 years. He's used it one time. He's already had a couple of special assessments, and he's already paid listing fees trying to sell it 2 times. After the presentation, he says, I want to take advantage of your services. I told him, I would love to help you, but I cannot help you. You're going to have to keep it. You can come back and check with me every 3 to 6 months and see if things change. But until that time, folks, he is stuck into this contract, okay? So please, please, please keep that in mind, okay? Let me show you some proof of performance here. This is a letter right here sent from Wyndham Resorts to one of our clients, and this was a couple years ago. On my website, I've got a bunch more to show you, and they're more current than this, okay? But this Wyndham letterhead, Wyndham will accept the return of the units and points if you execute the enclosed deed in lieu of foreclosure. By signing this deed, you will be relieved of any further obligations on the contract. Now, Wyndham, the largest timeshare company in the world. Wyndham has already lost a couple of lawsuits regarding the same issues. They can't win. So now with Wyndham, when we send them a new contract, they simply just negotiate with us on the back end and terminate the contract. So if Wyndham has already lost 2 lawsuits and the precedence has already been set, the templates are in place. It's a matter of you folks saying, this makes a lot of financial sense. I need to pull the trigger and get them done, okay? So that's just a Wyndham, the largest timeshare company in the world. Here's a Silverleaf Resort. Most of these resorts are out of Texas. Confirm our agreement regarding the cancellation of the contract between the above stated owners and Silverleaf Resorts. This is a mutual release. Blue Green Resorts, notice of termination from the club, and there will be no further obligations. Diamond Resorts, the second largest timeshare company out there. This deed will surrender the rights to the Mystic Dunes timeshare for your above clients. Orange Lake, this is one of the largest timeshares near Disney. Release you from your contract week, releasing you from title ownership. Hilton Grand Vacations, this was done just a few months ago. Here's a Woodstone and Massanutten in Virginia, just done a few months ago. All right, guys? And I have plenty more on my website that I can share with you to show you proof that we will get these things done. And within a couple of months, your name will be off title and these contracts will be terminated, okay? What I want to do at this point, folks, before we put the pricing up on the board, I want to play a very short clip from one of our attorneys. His name is Ron Stramoen. And then once he introduces himself, I'll put the fees up and we'll sit and discuss some questions that you might have, okay? And then explain the process. Where is it? Well, let me pull it up. second here. All right, guys, take a listen.
Hello, my name is Ron Stormoen. I'm one of the principal attorneys of the national law firm of U.S. Consumer Attorneys. Welcome to your timeshare maintenance fee consultation. We are a company with licensed attorneys who will work on your file with the IRS.
It's weird being recorded, trying to change things.
To release you from your timeshare fees and contract forever. Did you know that many timeshare companies will never let you out of your contract, even if they make misrepresentations or you are 95 years old and unable to travel? Many will hound you to your grave to pay fees. Do you want to be hounded to your grave? I don't think so. So let us step in and work toward ending your timeshare fees. Our one-time charge is all you pay for our work for you. If the resort gives us a hard time, our services may include filing a lawsuit against them, and you will not have to pay any additional fees for our lawsuits. Hire our national law firm, and we will work to end your timeshare nightmares once and for all. Our designated intake managers here today will be able to help you get the process started. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
Okay, folks, that's Ron Stormoen. He's one of the two principal attorneys from the law firm. We recently, in the last couple months, just brought on 6 new attorneys to help folks out of their timeshare contracts here throughout the United States. And one of the reasons why we're growing, folks, is because this is probably the only legal way you're going to be able to get out of your timeshare contracts now. The resorts cannot afford to let you walk away. The listing companies are out there just to take your money, guys, and the resorts are doing everything they can to make sure you never get out of these contracts, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and put my fees up on the board here. Sorry about that. This is our termination fee right there. It's a one-time fee for one timeshare contract, $4,995, okay? Now, this fee right here is a one-time fee, and you will not pay one more dime ever again, either to us or to the timeshare resorts. You will break even financially in about 5 years, less than 5 years for you folks, okay? If you decide you do not want to do this here today, that's okay, because we're not going to pressure you. But you will be dealing directly with the law firm, their office. You will not be dealing with us after today because we move on to different cities and different states. So you can call us up, we'll put you in touch with the attorney, and they'll send you out the documents, but they do charge $1,000 more because they prefer not to do the paperwork. They'd rather have us do it here today, okay? And the biggest incentive you have, you've already paid your fees, is do not have to write the check for your 2015 for the other timeshare contract. So you are getting a head start. You have not paid your fees, correct? The 2015, you have not written the check.
I paid last October.
October you paid
That is,
for 2015, you already paid it then.
that is 2015.
You pay ahead of time, okay? So you paid for 2015 already. You folks will get a head start on the other timeshare contract, okay? So folks, these are the fees that we do charge. You have 2 options at this point because you are now the timeshare expert, right? One of your options is to keep your timeshare, and you can keep writing the checks. You can pass them on to your kids. You folks have to get at least 10 or 15 years out of it. Ludi, you're going to go on and on and on. You're never going to break even on this contract, okay? Now, our fees, you'll break even in less than 5 years. The question is, will you ever break even financially by keeping your timeshare contracts, yes or no? The answer is no. Will you ever outuse it or outlive it? You guys might, right? Probably pretty good chance you will.
Yeah.
Don't know, right? But just think about how many years in the next 10 or 15 years you may not use that timeshare contract, guys. That's just going to be money you're throwing away, right? So you're not going to break even, you're not going to outuse it, you're not going to outlive it. And if you can just take a step back financially today, so that moving forward after a couple of years, the rest of that money you're looking at on that worksheet, do you think there are better investment opportunities out there than the timeshare contracts? The answer is yes, right? Now, we're not giving up your vacations, guys, because your vacations anywhere in the world are now accessible not only for less money, but you're going to have better accessibility because now you are not a timeshare owner, and you will actually get better service, and you'll get more weeks than you had before, okay? We appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. My wife, Roxanne, and I are going to sit with you. We'll answer all your questions, and we appreciate you folks for being here. Thanks a lot, okay?